Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of WFA Better Marketing, and thanks to Meta for their sponsorship. Today, I'm joined by Leyal Eskin Yilmaz, forgive me for the pronunciation, who's the CMO of Europe, the UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand of the Magnum Ice Cream Company, a newly forming company that's being separated out of Unilever, and that Unilever will own 20%. The rest of it will get floated. So, such a delight to have you join us on the podcast. So you are in the most extraordinary company at the most extraordinary time, because this summer, the hottest on record. I can safely tell you I have consumed way too much of your products. And as the Magnum Ice Cream Company steps out of Unilever, in fact, here we are just as your colleagues are doing the capital markets round, and I know the intent is to do a float, which Unilever will end up owning 20, but you'll be a standalone business. So how's that feeling? It must be an incredible phase.
It is. So I need to pick the right words. It's both exciting and humbling. So it's like building a new house at the same time living in that house. So it is quite exciting to imagine how great the house will look like at the end. But in the meanwhile, right now, it is not the most comfortable place to live. And we are designing new systems, hiring great talent, shaping the culture. At the same time, we need to run the business with very high performance expectations. So the biggest challenge is to let go of Unilever's rock solid infrastructure. It is very convenient, very comfortable, but at the same time, let's accept it is not fully designed for the realities of ice cream business. So we have a once in a lifetime chance to design it in a way a modern and cut through marketing organization will be. So this is very exciting, and we are learning a lot along the way. So because we are not taking anything granted for anymore. So I will add one more word. It is energizing, exciting, humbling, and rewarding.
Fantastic. Well, those are good words, and clearly energizing is the key one, because you need the energy to be able to deal with it. But I see you've been called a few times. I think it's a great thing to be called the Queen of Ice Cream Marketing. But now you've arrived at being Queen. Can we go back to where you started? Because you had an extraordinary career, and I'm always fascinated to know how people's journeys started, and if you can weave in marketing as a career and what you think of the profession and where we are. That'll give you plenty to get your teeth into.
Yeah. So look, for as long as I can remember, I have always been a good student and with a strong affinity for numbers and mathematics. And I was quite curious about social sciences, politics, history, psychology, and I ended up studying economics. It was like the melting pot of everything I like and everything I was good at. And even at that time, I was aware that my strengths are very much connected to my visual learning style and visual memory. And I was drawn to aesthetics, anything, colors, shades, and visuals, and the stories you can tell with visuals was quite important to me. And the pull towards this visual world is hard to ignore. And towards the last years of the university, I explored different jobs. And I realized that I liked marketing because it was a combination of creative with analytics, structured with expressive. It felt like home. And I'm Turkish. And at that time, Unilever was the most desired employer in Turkey. And you will be surprised to hear that. But after decades, and even despite the rise of all the tech giants, it still holds that position in Turkey. And for the top graduates from the best schools, it has always been the dream company. I still remember the day I got accepted. It was one of the happiest moments in my life. And yeah, this is how it all began, precisely 24 years ago.
The most extraordinary thing, and I had this conversation with your two ex CMOs of Unilever about Unilever really providing it's a career. And I think in your case, you've had 12 different roles, you've worked across 4 or 5 different categories, different geographies. So, can you talk us through a little bit of your journey? Because I think, did you go first to the US after Turkey to work?
So yes, I had had the privilege of working in almost all Unilever categories so far, the current ones and the ones already carved out before. So home care, personal care, beauty, foods, beverages, ice cream, and it is pretty much the full FMCG spectrum. But as you said, I also had the chance to live in 4 very different markets. uh, Turkey, obviously, and then the US, and then United Arab Emirates, and now Netherlands. So 4 very different countries. And of course, moving across geographies are teaching you a lot about business, but more about yourself. And while moving around those geographies, so I think I tested and sharpened my values a lot. And these are my non negotiables, and they stay constant. But everything else, and it makes a huge amount of things, you need to learn how to flex and how to adapt. And I think this is a very rewarding part of moving across markets. And of course, each market shaped me on its own way. In Turkey, so you learn about agility. You need to move fast and with limited resources, you need to deliver. In the US, it's all about scale and maturity, especially in media and digital. You operate with precision. And in UAE, I think I gained a deep appreciation about business and cultural nuance. Uh, there, the consumer behavior and the corporate dynamics are quite layered and complex there. But I faced the real business complexity in the Netherlands, managing 30 plus countries from a single hub teaches you a lot about the importance of systems thinking and orchestration. So each helped me in its own way and shaped who I am and how I lead today. But I wouldn't trade any of these experiences for the world. So I learned a lot.
And in this role you've got now, you know, what do you bring into it that you've learned along the way, maybe from the other categories, obviously the other geographies, because that's a fantastically nice mix of learning. And you come anyway from Turkey, more of which in a minute. But how are you? How is your learning applying in this new role, newish role for you?
Yeah, so in every new role, I think so you are always just bringing something back. But again, so this is also Europe is considered as one set of countries, but it is considered as if it is quite similar to each other, but it is not the case. So there are millions of nuances within Europe too. So you need to understand. So I think just traveling around these geographies and being outside of Europe sometimes helps a lot
Yeah,
to
which is
understand
great.
the context and the differences.
And then obviously what we see at the WFA is more Turkish companies joining us. What we see across the globe is more Turkish marketeers popping up in regional roles, global roles. There are, a couple of Turkish ladies in London now who I met when I was at Vodafone who are doing extremely well in business here. Uh, and I have very fond memories. I think first time I went to Istanbul, 1988, I was taken to the bridge before it was open and said, "Your left foot is now in Europe and your right foot is in Asia," which is a brings you, you suddenly have the sense of where Turkey sits. But what is it? What is it that's happened to Turkish marketing that means you're being exported so well? That's
So I often call being in Turkey or describe Turkey as the real-time MBA for marketeers. So it's a very fast and complex market. And the consumer behavior changed overnight. Digital commerce is quite advanced, and again, so everything changes very quickly, but competition is very intense. Growing up in that environment teaches you to be agile, entrepreneurial, and most importantly, resilient. And let's be very honest here, delivering and achieving is almost survival in Turkey. So drive for success becomes second nature. Plus, as you said, being in the crossroads of East and West gives you a natural cultural fluency. And I think all of that really helps Turkish marketeers thrive when they step into regional and global roles.
Yeah. And when we were there for the Global Marketing Congress a while ago, as you know, often called the most global airline in the world now is, as Raja famously called it, Turkish Airlines.
Yeah.
but, uh, but
It's a
that
big event for the country. So I still just talk to marketeers in Istanbul and they still remember the event. I think it was a great success.
no, it's fantastic, and I see that wherever we travel, the pride it creates for local marketeers, but also, when you've got a city like Istanbul to showcase, my word, what a glorious place to be. And do you, I guess, in this new role, two or three things are interesting. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm a fan of Unilever, the University of Marketing that it is. But there was always a kind of Unilever way of doing things, whichever category you were in. So as you set up a new marketing division in a new standalone company, are you going, okay, now let's change some things? So how much are you going and changing and having a different approach to the capability you build? I mean, I think I'll be fascinated in that because a Unilever person's instinct is to go, well, that worked there, so it'll work here. Whereas I think you have a great opportunity to go, okay, well, there are things that were good, there are things that we could do better. I mean,
Yeah,
is
this is
that
a
how you're
great
thinking?
question. And this is also a good dilemma. So Unilever is such a good school, marketing school. Yeah, and we are all from there. So 24 years. Of course, it is in my DNA now. So it's hard to change. But at the same time, so when you are in that system, there are also things that you think that you can do better. And again, I think this is the chance to change the things that you were not 100% happy. And especially it is, yeah, it is not about challenging the basics of marketing, but especially when you are in a business like ice cream, it is very unique and it is not very similar to the other parts of Unilever. And just having worked in all, I can confidently tell you, ice cream is different because it is the sales systems are different, the seasonality is different, the cold chain is on its own, it is different. So I believe there are things we can do better, and this will be our ambition to make this happen. I hope we can achieve it. So this is the
Oh,
ambition.
listen, I 100% think you will. I mean, I must say, I'm vaguely astonished that this is happening because I think it's brilliant for Magnum and the portfolio of brands that you've got. So, what you also start with is this interesting mix of true global brands, some really strong local brands, the complexity of supply chain, all of those things. But how are you thinking about this mix, and are you looking at the brand portfolio and going tweak here, tweak there? Be fascinated by that too.
Yeah, we have got some iconic global brands like Cornetto, Magnum, Ben& Jerry's, the next everyone knows and wants. And we have some very big local jewels like B-Mill in Poland or Golden Gate Time in Australia. So they are deeply connected with their communities. So, and in our portfolio, every brand has a very clear role. Global brands take the ambition and lead on innovation. And local brands bring cultural relevance and personal connection. So in our minds, the roles are clear. And of course, how we will resource is also as a continuation of this agenda setting. And we manage them as one portfolio. And we believe we get the best out of both reach and impact. And we will continue to have all these strong local jewels because they are incredibly important for their people.
Yeah, and I think, as obviously in the previous regime, they began to look at the brand portfolio. Some of those brands probably wouldn't have got through the hurdle financially, and it's lovely to hear you go, no. So in Australia, that's a massive brand, got to stay. And that, I think that's smart because going where your customers are is always a good strategy.
Yes.
um, and speaking of, maybe this is a trickier question because as I've watched, and what I want to get to is purpose. So famously, a couple of days ago, not for the first time, the founders of Ben and Jerry's have made a plea to be, I think they even said, to be released because they built their brand and business around a very strong purpose. And they certainly became pressurized, when the activist shareholder was pushing against purpose. And, I wonder how you at the Magnum Ice Cream Company are thinking about purpose and what impact has that had? I mean, it's a pretty key question. Conscious, I don't want to suck you into anything that's confidential.
Thank you. So purpose will continue to sit at the heart of everything we do because we know this is what our consumers are also looking forward to. And Ben& Jerry's, it sets the standards for purpose and leading with values. I think they set the standards not just for ice cream, set the standards for the industry. And we take pride in building on that foundation. And the business is doing great. So it is also the evidence that purpose is actually helping the business to grow. So and we are quite proud of Ben and Jerry's. And at the Magnum Ice Cream Company, we are shaping what purpose means for each and every brand, not just for Ben and Jerry's, but also for the other brands. And we are trying to make sure that it is genuine, it is practical, and firmly rooted in our core principles. It is not just about hedge slogans. You know that it is not working. It's all about real, meaningful impact, as Ben& Jerry's is doing.
Good. I'm delighted to hear it. So looking forward to seeing how that progresses. And then again, as I see what you're beginning to do differently, I see you've built a very early collaboration with the world's best-selling video game. On the face of it, sounds unlikely that you will do a co-branded ice cream with Minecraft, but I think that's what you've got in mind. I mean, tell us a bit about that, and how did you get to a collaboration like that? Which, by the way, just avoidance of doubt, I'm a huge fan of that kind of thing because going where culture is and being part of the culture and relevant to the culture is a way to be continuously authentic to who you are, what you do. So I guess it's in that spirit, but love to hear about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so partnering with Minecraft make a lot of sense for us, as you said, because our core audience, it's 16 to 24-year-olds. They're also big gamers. And we wanted the product to feel very authentic. So we worked closely with the Minecraft team to bring the game's iconic visuals and concepts to the ice cream world. So there are, for example, crystals in the ice cream. So people, when eating, people can find out. So they are digging into ice cream. So it's quite cool. And it took very short. So from idea stage to the ice cream freezers, it took only 6 months. And of course, a lot of teamwork and agility apart from that. And yeah, as you said, I think cultural relevancy is important, and these projects are bringing it. But these are never one-off activities. You cannot get cultural relevance with one-off activities. I think it's all about long-term partnerships, and that's why we have already started planning what is next with Minecraft and beyond. So I'm also very excited about these kinds of projects.
That's fantastic. Having touched purpose, having touched partnerships, now can we talk about inclusion? Because I know, you've been a strong advocate at your time at Unilever, but you also are one of the mentors on the Women on Boards program in Turkey, and I'm going to guess you continue to drive this at Magnum, but yeah, in a backdrop, I have to be careful how I say this, where a lot of the initiatives that were seen to be global because of political circumstances seem to be being parked. And for me, it's such a shame that the whole inclusion agenda isn't continuing to be forced ahead and people are inventing new names for it. But what about in the Magnum Ice Cream Company? How is that going?
To start with, for me, inclusion and belonging have always been so dear to my heart. And since 2014, I have been actively working with women NGOs, and that commitment continues in the new Magnum Ice Cream Company. And again, so it starts with representation, having different voices, diverse voices around the table when the decision is made. But it doesn't end there. So it is only the real impact is only possible when leaders um, actively sponsor diverse talents and willing to challenge the systems that holds people back. So this is what we need to have everywhere, but also the Magnum Ice Cream Company. And in our company, in marketing, inclusion shapes how we brief our agencies and how we show up in the culture. When it comes to talent diversity, I can speak of marketing function, of course. It's a bright spot, internally and externally. Across the wider organization, we are doing well, but we know that we can do much better, especially in the most senior part of the organization and in some functions like supply chain and sales. These are so problems. So we have more problems there, but we are committed to make it happen.
And then before I ask you the inevitable question about I mean, I think how much time are you spending traveling places as opposed to doing what
Oh,
we're doing here?
oh, a lot. So I spent, especially within Europe, and ANZ is also Australia, New Zealand in my region. So I'm traveling a month. So almost oh, every week I'm on somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I read that as a kind of lead into the AI thing because when you're building in a new company, a new culture, you have to do that with the people and you have to do that in
Yes,
person.
of
And
course.
convenient though this is, it's nothing like meeting somebody in person. So I'm delighted to hear that.
Yeah, I travel a lot,
Yeah,
and again, AI will never be able to replace it.
no. But I mean, how are you? Obviously, you're doing the whole new systems, new processes in a new company, and at the same time with the, as usual, overhyped new technology of AI. But how are you seeing AI? Because the disruption in marketing is much talked about, but I can see it enhancing in all sorts of ways and helping as long as it's in service of us human beings, not the other way around. But what's your approach with AI, Leanne?
AI is creating a seismic shift in marketing. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but there is no other function in business other than marketing who is disrupted as much and as deeply. And now the new wave is AI. And yes, it's a big shift. And personally, I'm loving it because I'm reading, learning, and connecting more than ever. So it is uncomfortable and it is pushing us to be better. And as a team right now, we are moving from pilots to scale and integrating both predictive and generative AI more and more into our daily work. And I'm a big believer that it triggers creativity because there are some different discussions. If it kills creativity or it implies creativity, I always tackle can. So it triggers creativity because this, if of course, if it is used rightfully, so it is helping marketeers to spend their time on the right things, big things that's good.
That's fantastic because I think I hope we're about to enter another golden age of creativity because I think it's needed at every level. I mean, not just in marketing, beyond that. So let's see. But I think the as you'll have seen in the run up to Cannes, WFA did some research around um, how marketeers are feeling in these turbulent times. And I think it was beautifully put by my last guest, Seth Godin, who was talking about when I asked him about change, apart from the fabulous pronunciation of tumult, said, let's be clear, the world is as stable as it's ever going to be today. And actually, whenever he said that to me a couple of weeks ago, it's already less stable. But I guess to kind of narrow that down, how does that impact what's working, what's not working for marketing? I mean, that thing years ago, it used to be called the lipstick index because even when there were recessions, people would have little treats, and you probably couldn't call it lipstick index anymore. But is a Magnum a treat or is it a necessity? And how are you leaning into the challenges of the current environment?
Yeah. So again, so things are moving very fast, and consumer behavior is changing quite quickly. So how I feel, I think when we try to respond to changes, we are already late. This is how I feel at the moment. So I think now the key thing is how we can read the signals early on and place a few smart bets. So it's all about the bets now. So of course, yeah, if you are lucky and if you are getting the signals right, I think you are placing the right bets. But you should also accept that some bets will not work because you are trying to foresee future. But also you need to pivot things. And but if you pitch the right way, then so I think this is how every marketeer is trying to find it. Oh, what is the big way and how we can catch the big one. So I think this is, and I think this is the definition of agility, isn't it? So how
It
we
is.
can foresee and how we can be agile and quick in decision making.
Yeah, because I think that's a necessity. And when you were in Cannes, I know you were asked what success looks like for the Magnum Ice Cream Company, and I think you were with the drum too. And your answer seemed to be a real focus on short-term results and quarterly results. But I also know that you are a believer in short and long-term metrics. So how are you managing that? I mean, what do you want to achieve in a terrible question? What's your 3-year ambition? I mean, I imagine you've got to keep everything steaming along, but in 3 years, where would you like to be?
So unfortunately, CMOs have the shortest tenure in C-suites. So I think we shouldn't forget about that one. And at WNA, we often discuss how to strengthen the influence of marketing in the boardrooms, in the leadership teams. And having worked in some senior sales and general management roles, I know how important it is for marketeers to deliver in the short term. Of course, it shouldn't come at the expense of long term. Don't take it wrong, but short term impact is important. And ice cream is a seasonal business, and we are focusing 100 days of the year. Of course, season extension is important, but long term planning and detailed planning for long term for this 100 days is very important. It's in our DNA. And combine it with our carve journey, the success in 3 years for us is very clear. We want our brands to stand out in the most creative, in the most inclusive, and in the most culturally relevant brands. So we need to have these brands, not just in ice cream, but across the larger snacking and beverages world. So this is the 3 year ambition.
Fantastic. So, definitely the best global brands in the world of ice cream is what you're after. Yeah, listen, I don't doubt that you will get that. The tradition demands I ask you the same question I would ask everybody at the end of these, which is what do you think a CMO should have at the top of their agenda right now?
Yeah. These are pivotal times for CMOs, and I keep saying that this is not a good time to play defense. It is the time to start owning the future of the business. And at the top of the agenda, unsurprisingly, there is AI. And not just a technological experiment, but it is the new backbone of marketing. And let's face the brutal reality. If you don't build AI capability and governance now, we will be irrelevant in 2 years. So this is definitely at the top of the agenda. Second is be fluid in culture. So brands can no longer just walk at the sites and observe culture. They need to move with it, shape it, and have the courage to take a step. So then this is where the purpose comes to the picture, and you should do it even if it is uncomfortable, and most of the time it's uncomfortable. And finally, dry growth. I think you mentioned about that one. Marketing is not a support function. Especially in FMCG, it is the business itself. And it is the engine that fuels revenue, profitability, and competitiveness, both short and long term. I believe CMOs who deliver on these three priorities will set the agenda for the entire business.
Wow. Well, that's possibly the best answer I've had to that question. Apologies to other guests. No, because I think that to be so clear about the role of marketing, because it's the if the marketeers can't champion it and demonstrate it and don't have the numbers to defend it and don't drive the growth, etc., who can? And embracing technology to do that likewise. So listen, what a delight to talk to you. I don't doubt that you will be very successful with the Magnum Ice Cream Company. And I look forward to you breaking the record for the tenure of CMOs. So
Thank you.
onwards and
Thank
upwards.
you, David.
All
See
right.
you
Thank you
soon.
so much. And hope to see you
Bye.
soon. Thank you, Leah. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you.
Bye. Well, yet again, another fantastic conversation, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I hope you did too. Awful lot of lessons there, but the crispest answer at the end of what should CMOs have at the top of their agenda. So thank you, Leyal, and the best of luck to you and the Magnum Ice Cream Company. And see you all again very soon. Thanks.